Steeler fans of Pittsburgh, we are back and better than ever. I'm Bryan Anthony Davis, along with Tony Defeo. You just heard us on the Steeler Q&A, and now we are back and better than we were 5 minutes ago. Hopefully. If not, then you're tuning in for nothing. But look, this is the Steelers Retro Show. Tony, there you go. You're going to retro with the double T, the terrible towel. Oh, that's how old is that thing, Tony?
I have no idea. My mom found it on the street when she was walking her dog back in 2005 during the magical playoff run. So it could be from the 70s for all I know.
Wow, there's magic in them there towels.
Yeah.
Nice. Matty Peveril's the first one in. Good evening from the future. It's 7:45 a.m. July 7th here. And Nathaniel Zarate is back too. We're back. And yes, we are back. Woo. So here's the deal with this show. It's the Steeler Retro Show. We are not. And Ryan O'Toole, it was his suggestion. And I love it, the Steeler Retro Show. And then I said, hey, we're going to call it the Steeler Retro Show. And Dave said, yeah, I suggested that to you. And I'm like, Dave Schofield. And he took credit for it. And so there you go. And I'm like, all right, you're the boss, I guess. But then I remember, I guess he did say it, but that shows how much I pay attention sometimes. But here's the deal. Look, we just talked 2003 Pittsburgh Steelers because we were talking about Ryan Switzer and Marquise Pouncey, and we're talking about where they're going. The Retro Show's not about that. So if you're here to talk about the 2020 Steelers, go ahead and check out the last show we did, the Steeler Q&A, or every single other one of our shows. But if you're here to look in the past, get in that black and gold DeLorean, get up to 88 miles per H. We'll go back to Hill Valley. Well, actually, we'll go back to Steel Valley. We'll go back to the past, and we'll talk about some great Pittsburgh memories. And that's what Tony and I love to do most. We love talking about 2020 Steelers. That's true. We love talking about the Steelers. But the Steeler past means so much to us. And so we thought this would be fun. But I need your help, Tony. Tell them what they need to do. They need to help us out here.
Yeah, you need to think of some of the all-time most underrated Steelers from the modern era, as Bryan mentioned earlier, from the Chuck Noll era on up. Some of the guys who didn't make Pro Bowls, but maybe deserve that kind of love.
Now, don't throw them in the live chat though yet. Okay, don't throw them in the live chat. We're gonna go position by position, and we're just gonna do the offense today. But I'm going to give you guys a chance to vote on this, and we'll do it all. We'll just do it democratically, and we'll figure it out. The toughest one is going to be quarterback, and that's the first one we're going to go into. Now, I went back and I looked when I put this list together. I went back to ProReference.com and I looked at the starting lineups for most of the year from 1970 to 2020. Then I checked to see if these guys made the Pro Bowl. And when you see some of these names that did not make the Pro Bowl, you're going to be absolutely shocked, Tony.
Yeah.
So this is the toughest one. I mean, there's going to be some really good ones here. And we're going to do it like this. For quarterback, we're going to take one. If you want to throw in a backup, if you want to throw in a number 2 for backup, you can. Running backs and fullback, we'll take one fullback. Should we just take one RB? Is this just like the all-pro team, or are we gonna fill out a roster here?
Well, I think if you have a fullback, you can't have 2 running backs. So yeah, we have to go one fullback, one running back.
Okay, and then we'll figure it out as we go. So Mark Davison's looking to buy a number 43 this year, a Troy Polamalu. I'm wearing my number 90, my TJ.
Oh, that's a great shirt.
Yeah, I wish they'd go back to the Batmans. The Batmans are awesome. I had a Gummy Richards one and I got rid of it because I was just mad. I gave it away to the Purple Heart Foundation. Because I won't burn a jersey, but I was just like, you know what? I'm not keeping my Gummy Richards jersey. So I'm kind of bummed that I got rid of it, but I'll probably own one again when the wounds heal. But with that being said, it was time he parted ways, so I decided to part ways too. but they need to go back to the Batmans. They're fantastic, and they're long sleeve. These things are awesome. And look at the numbers. That's really cool. Can you see TJ wearing this? Can you see Minka wearing this? That'd be pretty awesome.
I know back then they were making fun of them back when actually like in real time they said they looked like they wanted to get gold, but the late Mr. Rooney said, Dan Rooney said it came out more like a mustard color. But I think with everything that was back before they became the Steelers.
Yeah.
So I think nowadays it would be looked upon more fondly.
66 and 67, and Dan said they probably never go back to them. So, but I'd love to see them because I just think they're super cool. But let's get into this. So let's have a lot of fun. Quarterback, the best Steeler quarterback to never make a Pro Bowl. Now, there's one name on the list, but we crowned him last week as the greatest backup quarterback in Pittsburgh Steeler history. Didn't we crown Charlie Batch as the best, or did we go with Tom Zach? I think we went Charlie.
No, it was Charlie. Definitely Charlie.
So Charlie's already on the list to not make a Pro Bowl. There's one thing to mention here. And guys, don't get ahead of yourselves. We're going to do quarterbacks first, and then we'll go on because I don't want your comments to get lost in the shuffle. One thing to know here, that we've got to go with players that never made the Pro Bowl ever. There's a couple guys at safety that made the Pro Bowl. And we're not doing safety this week, but made the Pro Bowl with other teams, just one season. But I didn't put them on the list. I was thinking about it because they didn't make it for the Steelers. But I'm thinking not Pro Bowl whatsoever. But you guys vote. You let me know. If you think that if they made a Pro Bowl with another team that we should put them down, if they didn't make with the Steelers, we can have that for next week. I would respect that. So you guys make the rolls. How about that? So Charlie Batch really wasn't a starting quarterback in Pittsburgh.
Right. So
he's already entrenched as our backup on the roster. There's no vote. He's the best. We voted him as the best backup of all time. Nathaniel wants Dick Shiner. I didn't put Dick Shiner on the list. So I looked at the list here, and I looked at the top passing leaders in Pittsburgh Steeler history. And the three that I came up with that didn't make the Pro Bowl would be one, Walter Brister, affectionately known as the Bubby. Mark Malone, who everyone thought looked like Tom Selleck, which I have a man crush on Tom Selleck. I have a staunch record of heterosexuality, to quote George Costanza, but I love me some Tom Selleck. My wife just bought me the Magnum PI Funko Pop the other day. Oh. Greatest TV show of all time, Magnum PI.
I love that show. Love it.
Just awesome. And Tommy Maddox, Tommy Gunn. So if we're looking at the best, we're going to take one, the best to never make a Pro Bowl. And this is the toughest category we're going to have all night. So to quote Dave Schofield, the unsexiest supermodel.
Yeah, it's I've been thinking about it ever since I started thinking about this show. I've been thinking about who would be the quarterback, and they all won playoff games. They all won very memorable playoff games. Malone beat Denver in the divisional round. Tommy Gunn, that big playoff comeback against Cleveland in the wild card round, and of course Bubby in '89 against the Oilers in that wild card game. So
what a run!
Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick one, me personally, just because it was such a magical time, I thought for me it would be Bobby Brister because of that 1989 season. I just really loved how he rallied that team down the stretch in that playoff game.
Dean's throwing in Joe Gilliam. I didn't put him on the list. We had him on the backup list last week. That kind of inspired this show. But if you want to vote for Joe Gilliam as well, I'm going with Tony on this, and I'm going Bubby Brister. Now we can't go Cordell Stewart, Dave Shipley, and the reason we can't go Cordell Stewart, he went to the Pro Bowl in 2001. He went once.
Right.
He went. There's a lot of guys that just went once too. So Cordell probably would have won it. But if I'm also looking at starters, And that's really what I'm looking at. Guys that not started games because they were a backup, but started. I'm thinking Bubby Brister is the one guy highest on the list as far as passing yards as well, touchdown passes, and probably less games than Malone. Tommy Maddox had the least.
Right.
2002 was a magical year too.
Right.
But I think I'm going to go Bubby.
Yeah, he had a slightly better record than Mark Malone and similar yardage. I think he was a better talent overall. So
Christian Cahill. I don't think Byron Leftwich ever made a Pro Bowl, and that's something I didn't check because I have him basically as a backup.
Yeah, he's
the
more
only
backup.
reason. The only reason we're looking at backups here, we're not really looking at backups because we crowned Charlie last week as the best backup, so he's made the team. There's just no reason to go through last week's show. If you want to check that out, go on iTunes, check it out. It's great.
Yeah,
it's free.
Great show.
Just check it out. Snowman wants Mark Malone. Someone else wanted Magnum Malone.
Magnum Malone, I like that.
Two of my favorite characters of all time: Sam Malone, Magnum PI, Magnum Malone. That's great. That might be my new alias. My former alias was Lance Mannion, and that's what Sam Malone, when he was checking into the hospital because he had to get surgery because I think he got shot in the butt or something, and he went in as Lance Mannion, and that was always my. It's pretty obscure from Cheers. Cheers is an obscure show, but that episode was probably obscure, and so I was like Lance Mannion, but I might be Magnum Malone from now on. So let's look at the running backs. Now, I've done this a little different because we've got some guys that were listed as, they were feature backs, but they were listed as fullbacks. Because if we were doing this exercise and he hadn't gone to Pro Bowls, Franco Harris is a fullback.
Yeah.
So I broke it down into two categories, fullbacks and running backs. The fullbacks were the guys that Pro Football Reference listed as fullbacks. I considered them more feature backs, but I'm going to go with them. So let me go ahead and break out the fullbacks first, actually. We're going to go with number one on this list so far is just because of most recent history. The great from New Hampshire, Dan Kreider.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on Dan Kreider? Never made a Pro Bowl. Mark Davison.
Yeah.
So I think he's the most traditional fullback on this list, Tony.
That's what I was going to say. He's more along the lines of your traditional, especially the modern fullback, the guy who just does nothing but block. And back in as you mentioned in Franco's day, the fullback was the feature back.
So and Donald Nolan says Rocky wasn't a fullback. Franco, that's very true, and that's why Rocky is not on the fullback list. Frenchie Fuqua, the French Count, they counted him. A guy I got a chance to hang out with. I got to drive him to the airport once. An awesome guy.
Yeah.
And I actually called him on the phone a couple of weeks ago. Hasn't called me back, but he's called me back in the past. But I wasn't affiliated with BTSC. I just called to say hi. So I'm hoping he calls me back. I'd love to have him on the show. But Frenchie Fuqua is considered a fullback. And then they're considering Merrill Hodge as a fullback.
Right.
And Merrill had some great years. Just absolute fantastic years. And that run in that 89 playoffs that you were just talking about with Bubby was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Donald Nolan, I didn't put Gary Russell on the list. Gary Russell was kind of a one-hit wonder, but he did have that touchdown in the Super Bowl. But for these guys, I went with the big three of Dan Kreider, Frenchie Fuqua, Merrill Hodge. You could throw in John Kuhn if you want. You could throw in John Whitman if you want. Rosie Nix is not on because Rosie made the Pro Bowl.
Right.
Or he would have been on that list.
Right.
So who do you think? This is tough because Merrill's Merrill,
Yeah.
The French Count was great, but I think Dan Kreider is your best fullback here. The truest fullback.
I guess it all depends on eras. If I'm gonna pick one, I'm gonna pick. I'm going with Merrill. He gets my vote as number one because he was like in Chuck Noll's offense. The fullback was usually the featured back, and he was the guy there for a couple of years, and then of course they drafted Tim Worley, and he didn't really like that all that much. I think he wanted to be the star, and he didn't really get the opportunities that I think he should have got. But that playoff run, back-to-back 100-yard games, I think he was the first guy to do that since Franco, or maybe even Franco may not have even done that. I'm not sure, but that was a magical run, and he was productive for a number of years. He never got 1,000 yards, but he was a really good, versatile fullback for them.
I tell you what, it looks like 3-3, so I need the next person to break the tie. Merrill Hodge, Lester was solid. Veron Haynes, I go with Will Johnson, Willie J. I guess that's Will Johnson, Dave Shipley. So we need somebody. Rocky Blyer was a lead blocker for Franco, so he was a fullback. He's considered a running back on the list.
Right. It's more about formation.
So awesome stuff. Just broke the tie. Looks like we're going to go with Dan Kreider. That was a tough one. We're going to have to remember this because Merrill probably very easily could make that team. Let's look at the running backs on the list. So we've talked a lot about Rocky Blyer. All right, Rocky Blyer. It is hard to believe he never went to a Pro Bowl. He had a 1,000-yard season. Right. But look at how many Steelers were going to the Pro Bowl at that time. And he was in the same backfield as Franco Harris. Rashard Mendenhall is a guy that not a lot of people like.
Right.
Because of the fumble, because of the what seemed like pro Osama bin Laden comments when the United States military killed Osama bin Laden, and he's like, well, a man just died. Why are we celebrating this? And those tweets came a couple months after the big fumble. So,
right. Yeah, that didn't help.
That didn't help. So a lot of people just couldn't stand Mendenhall. Mendenhall was very good in his time here, though.
That 2000.
Go ahead, Tony.
I'm sorry. I'm delayed. But that 2010 season, he was so valuable for them when Ben was down, and he had a great playoff run.
He was really good. Mendenhall could get a vote here. I threw Walter Abercrombie on the list because he's just Walter Abercrombie. But I don't think he's going to get many votes. Here's a guy that might have been Ezra that said it. I'm not sure who said it. Could not stand Frank Pollard. And Frank Pollard is probably a guy that I want to give a vote to.
Oh, I mean, here's a guy who had the misfortune of coming along right as the Super Bowl era ended, right? And everybody got old, everybody started retiring, everybody started getting released, all that kind of stuff. And he was a workhorse for them all throughout the 80s. I mean, you mentioned Walter Abercrombie, and he just didn't pan out as the number one pick. But Frank Pollard, I think he was a 10th round pick. He was a really solid guy for them, and almost had 1,000 yards a couple times.
Very good. He's the 7th leading rusher in Pittsburgh Steelers history, and I am actually going to give my vote to Frank Pollard. And I'd like to see what everybody in the live chat want to say, but there's still the Rocky Blyer factor.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Well, if we're talking underrated, the spirit of underrated, Rocky, he's a very, very famous guy for being part of those 70s teams, and he never made a Pro Bowl, but he was a great contributor. He caught that famous touchdown pass in Super Bowl 13, rushed for 1,000 yards in 1976 when they had the injury problems with Terry Bradshaw. Him and Franco each rushed for 1,000 yards. So if I'm going with totally underrated, to me, it'd be between Mendenhall and Frank Pollard, and I'm gonna have to give my vote to Frank Pollard because I think it's tough being in an era when it's not a Super Bowl era, it's not a playoff era, and it's out of your control. But he was a really good running back for them.
Okay, live chat, give me 4 more. Donald Nolan says Rocky. Tony says Pollard. Snowman says Rocky. Mark Davison says Rocky. Ezra says, I guess Pollard wasn't that bad. Maybe I'm just mad that we passed on Emmett for Eric Green. Maddie says Blyer.
Right.
I think we got to go Blyer.
I mean, it was going to be a tough sell. It's going to be a tough sell because of all the things I mentioned. Really, I mean, the great stuff that he did here. But it's hard for me to picture Rocky as underrated because he's such a great story. He's such a great celebrity, and he was a part of those 4 Super Bowl teams, and he got a lot of notoriety out of that. Whereas somebody like Frank Pollard, I mean, nobody's ever going to remember him because he came along right in the very following decade.
Do we want to make Frank Pollard a third down back?
Sure.
Hey,
a third down specialist.
We're making the rules here. Let's do that.
That's right.
Frank Pollard, the guy, and I think we talked about this before. Frank Pollard won a state title in the 1970s for his high school in Texas in track.
Right.
He was the only guy on the team.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So he won a state championship by himself, a team championship. That's absolutely incredible. So, but Rocky Blyer gets the nod. So, got to go with it. And, you can see Fighting Back on YouTube. I found it on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty cool.
It's a good movie.
And I didn't finish it, but I need to go back and finish it. Let's go tight end. This is going to be an interesting one because I've got 4 on the list here that didn't make a Pro Bowl. Let's start off with Mark Bruner, a number 1 pick out of Washington in 1995. I thought he was a better blocker than he was a receiver. I thought he was good. But there's a couple guys here. There's another number 1 pick out of Clemson. His name was Benny Cunningham. And Benny Cunningham was pretty darn good.
Yes.
He shared passes a lot with Randy Grossman.
Right.
And Randy Grossman, 4-time Super Bowl winner, another pretty good one. Out of Temple. I met Randy Grossman, actually super nice guy. And Mike Mularkey has got to make the list. Because if you grew up in the 80s, when Mike Mularkey came as a Plan B free agent, they called him Plan B free agents. And now Plan B is something completely different.
Right.
Now.
Right.
But Plan B was a thing that back then that's where the free agents came, because it was right before they went to unrestricted free agency in 93. I believe from 89 to 92 they had the Plan B free agents. So I'm getting a lot of Randy Grossmans here in the live chat. I was going to go with Benny here. I like Mike Mularkey. I like Mark Bruner. But it looks like Randy Grossman's getting the votes, guys.
Yeah. Mark Bruner, he was sort of, I hate to use the word victim, but he came along and he was part of Bill Cowher's conservative years where he liked to run the ball. He liked to run the bus. He loved running the ball. So Bruner was more like a 6th offensive lineman. So yeah, I don't know. It's between Benny Cunningham and Grossman. And Grossman played on the 4 Super Bowl teams, and he caught a touchdown in Super Bowl 10, and he caught a big 3rd down pass in Super Bowl 13. And Benny Cunningham he didn't really have a lot of big plays in his career. He had more stats: 202 receptions, 2,879 yards, and Grossman had 119 receptions. But I'm gonna have to give it to Grossman because he played on all 4 Super Bowl teams.
I'm still leaning towards Benny Cunningham is my vote, but the crowd has spoken. Or I'm a big Survivor fan. My best friend works for Survivor for a lot of years, and so the tribe has spoken. It's Randy Grossman. Now we're getting called up. Donald's calling us out. How is Spaeth not on this list?
Because he wasn't really that good.
Because he's Matt Spaeth, the 3rd rounder out of Minnesota in 2007. That was a really weird year. You go You go back to back with linebackers and good linebackers. You go Timmons, you go Woodley. Then you're like, all right, we picked too many good players up top. So we've got to go with, let's go with a backup tight end at number 3 and Matt Spath. And hell, let's get a punter in number 4 in round 4. And oh, wait, hey, what just happened? The New England Patriots did what? They traded a number 4 pick for Randy Moss? What?
Yeah.
I'm still pissed about that. All right. I swear that I'm related to Bry 160701 because he says Preston Gothard and he says BRY, we're both Brys. And just the fact that he pulls out, if he would pull out a Ouija Thompson next when we go to wide receiver, then I think we're lost souls together. But Preston Gothard started for a few years in the mid 80s. A lot of people don't remember Preston. I love that. What number did Preston Gothard wear?
Was it number 86?
Wow. Check out the big brain on Tony. Nice. So it looks like it's going to be Grossman. Cunningham's getting a lot of second place votes. But Grossman it is. Now we're going to have some fun. It's receivers time.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
There's a lot on this list.
Yeah.
There's some that are going to surprise you. So I'm going to throw some out early. Jim Smith.
Yeah.
People don't understand how good Jim Smith was. Another number 86.
He
went to the USFL, and he was amazing in the USFL.
Right.
20 touchdowns in 1985 in the USFL. 1,300, almost 1,400 yards. Just amazing.
You want to talk about? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You want to talk about like what leads to a dynasty kind of collapsing, and if you keep a guy like Jim Smith around throughout the 80s, that makes up for Lynn Swann retiring and missing on so many draft picks. But yeah, I mean the USFL came calling with the big bucks, and he was gone.
Could you imagine 1984? Lewis Lips, John Stallworth, and Jim Smith. Best
offense in the AFC,
wow.
Maybe. Well, maybe not. Maybe not as good as the Dolphins, but pretty darn good.
That would have been pretty good. I mean, that would have that could have beaten Mark Clayton and Mark Duper and Jimmy Cephalo. Remember Jimmy Cephalo?
Oh yeah.
I used to call him Jimmy Cellophane.
He had the longest touchdown pass for a while there in the Super Bowl. The one with Riggins. That one. That was he held the record for a little bit.
That's right. So let's look at the receivers here. I'm going to throw out some of the names that I don't think are going to be high on the list first, but like Jim Smith, Ernie Mills, Jeff Graham. Jeff Graham wasn't there long though.
Right.
Charles Johnson. And I've already seen Charles Johnson up there. Snowman, we can't go Yancey. Yancey went.
Yancey, the Pro Bowler. Was a stud.
Oh, he was, I believe, 97.
Yeah.
He was amazing. Hey, Big Marv's in the house. What's up, Big Marv? I love Big Marv always comes in and says, what's goody? I like that. What's goody? That's awesome. So, Martavis Bryant. But I think there's a big 3 here, Tony. And it's going to be Santonio Holmes, Wayne Capers, Bry. All right, there you go.
Wow. Wayne Capers.
Throw in a Greg Garrity while you're at it.
That actually might be one of the prettiest NFL films plays ever captured on NFL films. If you remember the Cliff Stout to Wayne Capers long pass and early in that debacle of a division round playoff game against the Raiders in '83. I mean, they show it all the time. It's a really beautiful play. Probably one of the most underrated catches you'll ever see. Wayne Capers.
I gotta go check that out because it's been a long time. Then Wayne just went away. Where was Wayne in '84? We needed Wayne in '84.
Yeah.
So here's the big 3: Antoine Randall, Santonio Holmes, Plexico Burress.
Yeah.
Where are you going? You could take 2. You're taking 2.
Right.
And you could take any of those other guys. And Ouija Thompson.
Right. I forgot about Ouija. Yeah, Ouija was he just didn't have the numbers.
You know what, George? I didn't put Ron Shanklin. I don't think Ronnie Shanklin made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
And I forgot to put him on the list. Ronnie Shanklin, let's throw Ronnie Shanklin in there on the list too.
Okay.
So we need 2 here.
Well, I can't believe he didn't make the Pro Bowl. Plexico. I was shocked to see that.
I thought he made it with the Giants, and he did not.
Yeah, I mean, here's a guy who was a big time receiver. He had the talent to be a number 1 guy, and he just he just never really became that. But if I had to just go in terms of what they contributed to the Steelers Super Bowl teams, it would have to be Santonio Holmes and Antoine Randall. That playoff run that Holmes had in 2008, it's maybe the best and most important playoff run in Steelers history. The things that he did,
and then of course Randall to help get them to win the division too. The stretch,
right.
Before Gummy Richards, our good friend Antonio Brown did it. The Immaculate Extension. Santonio had to do an extension in Baltimore.
Right.
Oh, they're still mad about that. I remember that. Reed's going with Ernie Mills on this. I got to go Santonio. And I think I've got to go. I think I really got to go Santonio and definitely Antoine Randall. Oh, yeah. Nate Washington did not make I do not believe he made one for Tennessee. He definitely didn't make one here. I'm probably not going to put him on the list. Snowman really wants Ernie Mills. Reed wants Ernie Mills. So it looks like it's down to Ernie Mills, Santonio Holmes, and wow, Ernie Mills over Plex. Is that what we're doing? And Randall L.
Well, I mean, Mills.
We need 3 receivers.
Right.
Actually, I said 2, but we need 3.
Yeah, three receiver set, and Mills is part of that famed 5 receiver set in '95. That great play that he made, the pass from O'Donnell late in the AFC Championship game that led to the game-winning touchdown. That's fantastic. Today it wouldn't be a catch, but back then it was.
Champagne really hurts when it goes in your eyes, and that's what my friends did to me. I bought champagne because I was anticipating a win, and they poured that right over my head, burned my eyes so bad, and I loved it. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It wasn't as beautiful as getting punched in the face during a scrum when Troy Polamalu took it to the house against Baltimore. But that was beautiful stuff. Santonio's in. I think Santonio might be our number 1 receiver here.
Absolutely.
We got to go Randall L. And our number 3 receiver, we're going Ernie.
Right.
Ernie over Plex. You guys, no, Christian, we're not going Swede. We're not going Swede.
Well, Ernie made it to the Super Bowl here, and he made some plays in the Super Bowl. And as I mentioned earlier, he made a fantastic one of the greatest catches in franchise history to get them to the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think it's hard to keep Plex off the list. He was such a talented guy, maybe the most talented one on the list. But Santonio he had such a great clutch gene. And of course, Randall L. was a fantastic player, and Ernie Mills, in true underrated form, he was maybe the most underrated of these guys of the 3 that we picked.
Well, I got to tell you this. So I'm calling an audible, and I'm this guy that I love loopholes. And so Matty Peverell, who's been writing for the site from the land down under, Randall L for punt returner. So there we go. We could go Plexico. We could go Holmes. We can go Ernie Mills. And then we put Randall L in as our punt returner. Oh, yeah.
And I tell you what.
You need 4 receiver sets too, right?
Yeah. And if you get those 4 on your team at once, there's maybe the best receiving core in the league. So there you go. If they're all in their prime, of course.
I did like the Ronnie Shanklin comment. I really like that, but he didn't get a lot of love in the live chat. So no Sammy Coates. Stop.
Sammy Coates. That's where I learned this.
Oh, Rick Woods for punt returner. Yes, Sammy Coates. I'll do that again, Tony.
That's right. That's what I do when I get a strike in bowling. It's Sammy Coates.
Is it now? If you're listening to the show, you got to explain what you're doing.
I'm doing the feed me thing. I don't, the first time I saw Sammy Coach do that, I cracked up and I laugh every time I see it. Mainly because it's after like a big long reception, so I'm already in a good mood, and then seeing him do that, it's just like, to me, it just cracks me up. So I adopted that for my own.
Are you a cocky bowler?
Yes, I am. Even though I'm the worst one on my team, but I'm definitely
That's awesome.
I'm the most cocky, or the cockiest. Yes.
That's awesome. We're gonna do this one really quick. It's center, and you talked about him on the last show. Ray Mansfield never. The Ranger never went to a Pro Bowl.
Right.
Look, you can throw in Cody Wallace if you want. You can throw in Justin Hartwig. We just talked about the great centers of all time. And we put Ray Mansfield number 5 on the list. I was keeping him out because I knew what I was going to talk about in this show. It's got to be Ray Mansfield and nobody else. And I got to tell you, you got to go Ranger. And I'm really not taking a vote because you're not voting Cody or Fernando Velasco. You're not voting even Justin Hartwig.
Nah. He sent me a nasty email once.
Who did?
Justin Hartwig sent me a nasty email once. He called me an idiot like 3 times in the email.
Why did Justin Hartwig call you an idiot? First of all, Justin Hartwig got caught holding in the end zone and almost blew the Super Bowl. So don't call Justin. Don't call my man. You were the idiot in the Super Bowl. Stop it.
That's kind of what I was.
An idiot.
Well, that's kind of what I was referring to. Not really, but how the line struggled in the late 00s, and you can't argue. The offensive line was pretty bad in the late 2000s. I mean, they made it through. They had a lot of undrafted free agent type guys on the line, and they actually played really well in the playoffs. But that 2008 season was awful. I think Ben was sacked 99 times.
That
or 100
was not
times.
their best line.
Yeah, like 08 and 09, before they got Pouncey, before the Pouncey year started. I mean, that line was pretty bad. And I happened to mention him briefly as one of the people on that line, and he just went off.
Well, Max was hurt, and Marvell was hurt. Max ended up playing in the Super Bowl, though. But
right.
You had guys like Kiyamatu, you had Darnell Stapleton, Willie Colon. Those guys were playing.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to talk about Willie Colon, some of those guys in a minute. But yeah, I can't believe Hartwig called you out. So he read you. Who were you writing for at the time? Were you writing for us?
I was writing for Behind the Steel Curtain. It was right after Jeff took over. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was
Hartwig.
shocked. I thought it was I thought it was somebody who just called himself Justin Hartwig, but it was actually Justin Hartwig.
How'd you confirm it?
I don't remember, but it was definitely him because I emailed him back and he emailed me back again and said, "You're still an idiot." So it was definitely him.
Tony, who here in the live chat thinks Tony's an idiot? And who here in the live chat
don't answer that
thinks that Justin Hartwig needs to apologize? Even though it was years ago. Who here? Come on, let's see some love for my boy Tony. Come on.
I am in the Behind the Steel Curtain Hall of Fame, and Justin Hartwig isn't. So
you're in
there you go.
Do they even do the Behind the Steel Curtain Hall of Fame anymore?
That was just yeah, they did it the 1 year. I'm just like it's like I'm just being a wrestling heel. Like Owen Hart was the king of the ring. That was
Are you in the BTSC Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's not official. It was just something
awesome.
that they did one time many years ago.
I am never going to be in the BTSC Hall of Fame.
Well, they only had it was only like a 1 year event. I'm sure if they had it now, you'd be in it for sure.
All right. You're getting some love now. Check this out. Tony greater than Hartwig. And look at this. Ezra's throwing down.
Well, put it this way.
Ezra's throwing down.
Wow, goodness. Put it this way. I could also get called for holding in the end zone. So there you go. Actually, I would get called for holding. Absolutely.
I'm not trying to call you out, Dave. Gilliam on the show. Joe, are you saying Gilliam should be on the show because he passed away a long time ago?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. My friend Tony is far, far away from being an idiot. and that's from
All
Big
right.
Marv.
Thank you, Big Marv. Big Marv says it.
Look at and Big Marv. That is a cool. That's one of the coolest profile pics we have. The terrible cow is draped perfect around his shoulder. Big Marv, we got to hang out with Big Marv. So our Vegas trip so far is Dennis Sheridan and Big Marv now. And maybe Zach Banner. Because
Zach Banner would be cool to party with.
Because Dave talked about going to Vegas with Zach Banner. so okay, so we need to get Hartwig on the show now. To see if he can apologize to you.
I don't know if I my first interview can't be with Justin Hartwig. I would absolutely.
You don't want to pop it. You don't want to pop it with Justin Hartwig, Super Bowl champion. No. You know what? I will say this. I'm sure he's a pretty good guy, and he was sticking up for himself, and I'd do the same thing. People were ripping one guy. We had one guy on the Homer and the Hater show yesterday, and I was solo, and so I called it the Homer show. And I'm not a huge Homer, but this guy was ripping on me for being the Homer when I was playing a part. And but I mean, it was predictions. It was bad predictions, sure to go good. So it is Homer stuff. So, but I said I brought him up in the live chat, and my gosh, you know what BTSC Nation did? They backed up your boy bad in a hurry. I mean, I feel like I could go down a dark alley with all 26 of you guys in the live chat right now. So, Big Marv, you missed the show yesterday. You could have had my back. So, there you go. But I love the fact that you guys are having Tony's back. Don't mention Tony and just have him pop up in the middle of the show. Would you know Justin Hartwig to see him?
Probably. I'm sure he probably lost a lot of weight since his playing days, so probably not. I probably wouldn't recognize him. I
actually really liked Justin Hartwig. I thought he was a good free agent signing and very good for that year. But I don't blame him for sticking up. But kind of gets my man Tony. Tony and I are like bros.
Well, as he told me in the email, I mean, he said I'll never claim to be as good as. And he said this, Mike Webster and Dermontti Dawson, but I am proud of my time here, and he should be. I mean, he won a Super Bowl. I mean, it just wasn't a good overall offensive line. There's no. That's all I was doing was pointing out the stats, and maybe I shouldn't have mentioned his name. Obviously, now I shouldn't have because he called me an idiot. But I mean, it was a fact.
I'm sure you guys could have a nice frosty beverage, whether it be beer, soda, and or a milkshake. We can get you the double straws, and you guys could work it out. So Donald thinks that you need to apologize to Hartwig, and he threw the LOL in there. So I think Tony did. I actually think Tony actually apologized to him. So go ahead, Tony.
No, I did write a follow-up article to that saying I maybe should be more aware of the things I say. So yeah, it did teach me a lesson.
That's a great. I didn't know. I never knew that story. That made my night. That's awesome. Let's gosh, what's happened to my voice there? I sounded like Murray Goldberg for a second. The great Jeff Garland from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Man, what's going on? Let's go to the tackles.
All right.
I actually think the guards are much better on this list, but we need to go. We're going to go 2 tackles. And we've got Chris Kiyomatu. Actually, he's more of a guard, right? Chris was a guard. I'm sorry. I had him on the wrong list. Willie Colon. Here's a good name. Ray Penny.
Yeah.
People don't realize how good Ray Penny was. Wayne Gandy. Marcus Gilbert. Max Starks. And here are my 2 favorites. They're both named John. Could you guess them?
John Jackson, of course.
Yep.
And John Kolb.
John Kolb. I think it's got to be John Jackson and John Kolb with Max Starks, number 3.
That's who gets my vote. Definitely John Jackson. To me, he's a great example of just because you don't get a lot of you don't hit on your first round pick, and they really missed very badly with Aaron Jones in the first round that year in 1988. Doesn't mean you can't make up for it later on in the draft, and they did. But they went back to the same school, Eastern Kentucky, and they found John Jackson in the 10th round. Not a sexy pick, but he wound up starting 120 games for them at left tackle, and by the time he left, he was a much sought after free agent. So he definitely gets my vote. And John Cole played on Super Bowl teams. I think he was the late 70s. And Marcus Gilbert, I'm proud of him for what he was like a butt of a lot of jokes back when he first started because he hurt so many of his own linemen, but he really turned himself into a premier right tackle by the time he hit his stride. So, but I'm gonna have to go with John Jackson and John Cole.
Marvell Smith went to a Pro Bowl. Christian Cahill,
right?
Starks did not, and I kind of thought he would have. What a big dude! What was he, 6'8"? I love Max Starks. Favorite of mine. I got to go John Kolb and John Jackson and Max Starks probably. Ray Pinney was really good. So Max is getting a lot of love in here. Kolb's getting a lot of love. Jackson not as much.
He started 120 games. I mean, he was a really consistent. That playoff run that they had in the 90s, and they went to the Super Bowl and everything. He was the starting left. He was the blind side protector for all those years.
Okay, we got to go. Apologies to Marcus Gilbert. We got to go John Kolb, John Jackson, and Max Starks. So I think that's what we're gonna do. We gotta have a tackle eligible in there too. All right. Big Marv said, I played football since I was a youngster. Marv, you got to tell us, what did you do? How high did you go? Did you know that our boy Michael Beck, deputy editor and interview extraordinaire, played college football in Canada, Division II. He's played against some of these guys, and he was an offensive lineman, 296-pound offensive lineman.
Wow.
So,
my goodness.
Do you believe that? And now he's, 215?
Oh, wow. Yeah, and I was going to say, he didn't look like he was 290 and when he's on the podcast. But, yeah, that's a pretty big guy.
I gotta throw out Reed's helping out somebody with Larry Brown. Larry Brown only went one time, and it was 1983. I think it was his last season after all those years. He had so many seasons in the league, and he got it at the very end. Larry Brown would have definitely been on this list. Dave Shipley says Jackson, Kolb, Starks. I think we go Jackson, Kolb, Starks as well. And Big Marv, we got to find out what position Big Marv played. That's now I got to know. Big Marv, I'm going to guess linebacker. He's an edge rusher based on his picture. I'm looking at him as an edge rusher. I'm guessing. But the name's big. So
could be nose tackle.
I don't know. So we're going John Kolb. 1977 and 78. Okay, 82 was right. Read over. So I'm reading, and I'm not saying what I'm reading. Wikipedia is saying 3 years. I thought it was only one, but that's something that we could look into more. Where I go is proreference.com, Pro Football Reference for everything. So I would check out Pro Reference for Larry Brown, and they would have the asterisks next to his season. I would probably think it would be that. So, and type in Larry Brown Steelers, or you get Larry Brown the politician, or Larry Brown the football coach. So, you know what? We're just going to get to the bottom of this right now. I'm going to go to Pro Football Reference, and let's see what they have to say, and they're just saying 1982. So he
Yeah,
played from
I'm under the
71 to
impression.
84.
Yeah, I'm under the impression he played a lot. He played a lot of his years as a tight end, and then he moved to tackle in the early '80s. So yeah, or maybe the late '70s.
So linebacker, strong side. Look at that, semi-pro. He didn't get to go to the college he wanted. Was semi-pro. Check out that. Check out that. I guessed it. Strong side linebacker. Look at that. All right. Big Marv has just made the BTSC football team. When we have so far, we have Michael Beck and Big Marv playing, and we can bring back Jeff Hartman because of that pick 6 that he had in the 8th grade that he talks about all the time. So we could throw him there too. Let's go to. We're going to wrap this up pretty soon with guards. This is a great list. This is going to be tough.
Very good.
This is going to be tough. We go with Steve Corson, Jerry Mullins, Moon Mullins. That was Bradshaw's guy.
Right.
Craig Wolfley, the Wolf. You know, Craig Wolfley used to be a sumo wrestler too. He competed in sumo. He competed in so much stuff. He even fought Butterbean once. Butterbean.
I know he's an MMA guy.
Yeah. So really, Wolf, he doesn't seem like that tough dude because he's just a jolly, happy guy. But man, he could end you.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with him.
Craig Wolfley was tough. Here's another one. Terry Long.
Yeah. And
he was one of the CTE guys that the Steelers had a lot of guys on the CTE list, the early going. 3 of the first 4 to come out was Webby, Mike Webster, Justin Strelsick, and Terry Long.
Terry Long.
A guy we lost last year, Sam Davis, passed away at age 75. That guy never went to the Pro Bowl. He played 15 seasons on the offensive line for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Won 4 Super Bowls. He was amazing. Read over and throws in Brendan Stye. Then we have Chris Kiamatu. But one guy that's on the list, the last guy that I have on the list here, he's a favorite of mine. It's Ramon Foster, the big Ragu.
Yes.
And I think Ragu has to be on that list. In fact, he deserved a Pro Bowl.
Oh, but absolutely.
So who do you go here? I mean, Sam Davis it's hard not to go Sam Davis.
Right.
He played all those years, and it's hard not to go Wolfley. Corson and Mullins and Long were really good. But if we're taking 3, we took 3 tackles, so we can take 3, but we're going to take 3, but let's take the top 2, though. Donald wants chemo in there. Chris Kiamiatu. And Big Ragu. We've got Sam Davis in the Ragu. We've got Wolf and Davis. Yeah, Mark Foster never went to a Pro Bowl. We got to go all 3, but who's our starters?
I'm going with Ramon because he played 14 games or more after he became a starter, and he did that for a decade. That's pretty amazing for a guard. And as you mentioned, Sam Davis played all those years, and he played in those Super Bowl years of the 70s. And by the way, he has one of the great again NFL films bits when they lost to the Broncos in the division round in '77. You see him shedding. I think it was Sam Davis shedding a tear. You know, it shows you how much it means to an athlete to lose a playoff game. So I'm going to go with Sam Davis and Ramon. I love Ramon. He's one of my favorite Steelers ever.
Yeah, Ramon is great. I told Jeff when he went over to DK Sports, I'm like, you've got to hook us up with Ramon.
Yeah.
You know, since you're going to be coworkers with the big Ragu, you've got to let us hang out with him. So we're going to go Ramon and Sam Davis as our starters, and Craig Wolfley is going to be there too. Tunch was mostly a tackle. We have that question, and he has Pro Bowls.
Yeah, he was the premier tackle in his day.
So, you know what? We're going to do the rest next week, but let's throw in kicker while we're at it. And so I think it comes down to about two guys here. If we're going kicker, can't go Gary Anderson. We can't go Boswell. We can't go Norm Johnson. Norm didn't go for the Steelers, but Norm went before and after. I think it's between two guys. It's the paper towel dispenser, Jeff Reed. Which Jeff, I mean, every time if I rip on Jeff Reed, I get people, sticking up for him. He's supposed to be a fun, good guy, a really good guy. But he's had some extracurricular craziness. Yes. But I would love to hang out with him. I want to go to Vegas with Jeff Reed too. I might not come back though. We're not going Scobie, Christian. And then the other guy is the Canadian Sean Sweezum. So Jeff Reed and Sean Sweezum. Sweezum basically replaced Jeff Reed. Yeah.
I'd have to go with Skippy because he kicked on 2 Super Bowl teams, had a lot of big kicks in those years, especially in Super Bowl 40 year. He had a lot of big kicks, so I'm going to go with Skippy Reed. And by the way, Matt Spaeth, somebody mentioned him. The most famous thing he was known for was when Skippy got into a fight with a cop in the parking lot in 2009. Spaeth was hanging out with Reed and had to break up the altercation. That's what he was known for most. That's why he wasn't on the list.
David Trout on the list there. David Trout had 2 runs with the Steelers because he was a replacement kicker for them.
Yeah.
Actually, but the guy who replaced David Trout was Gary Anderson. That's absolutely amazing. So we're going to go, I think we go with Jeff Reed there. Sean Sweezum, though, very good. Very good player for them. He did miss a kick in the Super Bowl, but that wasn't his fault. I mean, they brought him out for like a 50-something yarder.
Yeah.
If he got that would have been amazing, though. So here we go. We're about to wrap things up. This show was supposed to be the short show. The last show was supposed to be the longer show, but we had so much fun with this that we're coming up on an hour. But hey, thanks for everybody hanging out with us. This was a great one. We're going to do this next week too. So start thinking about those now. You need to check out, if you want to check out Wikipedia, if you want to check out I like pro reference football.com. That's right on. That's where I get everything, it seems. So that's I think the Stat Geek, Dave Schofield, gets all his stuff from Pro Football Reference also. So there you go. Thanks so much. Be sure to please support this show, whether you're watching YouTube. Download it, man. We could use those downloads. That'd be awesome. Yeah. It's free for you to download, but you download and listen to us in the car. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. I'm the podcast director now, so I've got to make it look like I'm doing a good job with some downloads. Actually, we're doing okay. But I mean, just like the show, tell a friend, have a lot of fun. And we're going to leave it with this. We got $2 from Snowman. And this is perfect. We lose in any fight. And I love that. That's why I love this audience. We've got to have a huge party one of these days and try to get everybody in and figure it out. So thank you, Snowman. Thanks for the $2, but thanks for having our back in any fight. We love you, Snowman. We love all of you guys, everybody on the screen and everybody that's been here, old friends and new. I know Big Marv's got our back. Always great to hang out with the Beastie Boys. Love you guys. Stay safe. The Beastie Boys. I like that.
It's awesome.
That's really cool. Christian says, been watching you guys a long time, just never on at the time you're live. So great to have you, Christian. And I appreciate it. I'm not going to take it out. I'm going to let Bry take it out. Bry 160701 says, just when you think you know the answers,
we keep changing the questions. It was a great, fun show. I love it.
See you next week, guys. Thank you.